Hey guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and I am back with another review to Black Lightning. We are on episode 3 of the first season, which was called LaWanda, the Book of Burial. And, man, this show just keeps, like, every time you think, maybe this is going to be a lighter episode. You know, I'm just going to skim the top of it. No, once again, Black Lightning was like, let me just go here and poke on all of these really deep issues and just get everything all up in your face and then walk away and let you sit with that post-show. And yeah, the show still to me is hitting all the right notes. It's still really good. It's still definitely keeping up the momentum that we saw from the premiere and last week, and I like it. I like it. The show, it's one that makes me laugh, it makes me think, it makes me feel things, like all cylinders, but I have a lot to go through in this one, so I'm trying my best not to ramble on and on, so let's just jump right into these points, because there's a lot. Anissa, testing out her powers. I'm glad to see that Anissa did not just run headlong into trying to be a vigilante right off the bat. I mean, she still clearly has that thought pattern. Like, she still, you know, we heard her talking to that girl, you know, about how she's like, you know, we got to make a difference. I could get out there, start fighting the bad guys. And thankfully, she just happened to run into a comic geek who had to remind her and give her a little bit of a grounded viewpoint of what it is to be a superhero, the downside, that it's not all glory and wins. There's actually quite a bit of complexity involved, but I am glad at least that Anissa didn't just, like, you know, show up at, like, at a Club 100 trying to start things. You know, I didn't know if she was going to maybe go that crazy, but she was smart enough to, you know, figure out that she needed to know how to get these powers to work consistently, because it was both times that her powers were triggered, she was in an excited, scared sort of state. And it was very important for her to figure out what triggers her powers. And in her case, she figured out her breathing had to do with it. I thought maybe it had to do with adrenaline as well, but I guess I was wrong. Or maybe it's probably both to some degree. But it looks like it is absolutely super strength. At least there may be more to it. But one thing I did notice, there was no glowing this time around. So I don't know if that's something that is going to come up later. But so far, we just saw her be able to do things that prove that she has super strength, and apparently that strength also isn't just in, you know, her being able to do things like outwardly, but we saw that big heavy piece of metal fall on her back and it didn't seem to hurt her at all. So I wouldn't say she's invulnerable, but I don't know if she can still be cut and shot and all that good stuff, but it looks like she at least can put up with, she can take a beating and she can give one. So kind of like a juggernaut-y type of thing. So very cool to see that. It was very cool to also just see her test and play with her powers. It's really cool to see a girl doing this on TV as well. I mean, I think the only other girl on TV that's doing this type of stuff is Supergirl at the moment. So it is nice to keep seeing a girl out there kicking some butt, and it was really well shot. The fight between the Reverend and the police chief Henderson. Like, talk about, like, last week we were Uncle Tomming and all kinds of crazy stuff. This week we talking about, I mean, the chief went right in on how the Reverend is living fat off of the coffers of the church and not getting his hands dirty before now, and the Reverend coming back and basically saying that the police weren't nothing. It got real. That got real. That was some deep stuff right there. I mean, it was a quick rapid fire fight, but they touched on a lot of very sensitive issues that if you've ever just watched the news or seen a lot of different, you know, programs, particularly ones that are focused on Black culture, this is a fight that goes on quite a bit, especially in those in neighborhoods where they struggle with very realistic problems like the ones we see in this show. And it was quite interesting. I mean, they just touched on it. Once again, this show likes to throw that stuff out there to kind of let you marinate on, you know, where does the responsibility fall? You know, the police are saying, you know, that the churches and these spiritual leaders should be the ones trying to reach people and do more in the community versus, you know, this religious leader saying, no, you guys as the cops aren't doing enough to fix this problem. So very interesting little debate there. you know, this is something that we struggle with in the real world with, you know, people try to place blame as to why these things happen, why we do have gangs and organized crime and why they're so powerful. But in the end, it shouldn't be about finger pointing. It should be about actually working together to, you know, make these things change and stop, right? But I just love that argument, it was fast, but it was deep. You know what I'm saying? That's what she said. We got introduced to another character in the underworld. We got introduced to Miss Lady Eve. And I am very intrigued by her character. I hope we get to see a little bit more and understand. It seems like she might actually be one step above Tobias, potentially. You know, it goes in the criminal world, you know, you never really see the top of the ladder. You know, there's big bosses, but even the big bosses have someone who's just a little bit higher, and it looks like potentially Lady Eve is that person. I don't know her character. If you can tell me a little bit about her, please do in the comments. You know, I love how you guys fill in the blanks for me. But from what we can see, Tobias seems to respect her and maybe fear her a little bit. And yeah, she's not a fan of Black Lightning either. She's clearly taking her cut of this criminal world that's going on in Freeland, and she was not happy to see that Black Lightning may be interrupting the flow of her criminal endeavors. So I hope we get to see more of her. The actress who plays her, I cannot remember her name, but I like her. I've seen her in quite a few things, and I would be interested to see a little bit more of her and see how she interacts in this tapestry and whether or not her and Black Lightning are ever going to interface at some point. We had an interesting theme throughout this episode as well regarding how to view Black Lightning, and I love that this show kind of takes, we've seen them challenge so many things about the superhero life already in 3 episodes, from Jefferson quitting because of the toll it was taking on his family, to the fact that he ended up getting a divorce, to the fact that you know, he's not sure whether or not he's making more of a difference by educating them versus going out there and fighting crime. Like, all these things are things that a lot of other superhero shows just don't touch on. You know, we just accept the fact that they're superheroes and nothing really bad happens. There's no real consequences. But this show is very much peeling back that little glossy layer that especially the other CW shows tend to not really look into, which is this real actual price that's being paid, not to mention just all the issues around if there is a vigilante. And in this episode, we have the tackling viewpoints of, we've got the police chief who, of course, does not think that vigilantism is something to promote. Like, most police officers don't believe in, you know, they say, nope, vigilante justice is encouraging lawlessness. You know, he's doing things that are illegal. He's going to encourage people to do that. It's a bad thing. And then you got the other side of it where we've got the Reverend talking about how people kind of revere Black Lightning, and that's dangerous territory, in my opinion. You know, it's one thing to appreciate and respect and kind of see someone a bit as a hero, but it's a different to kind of revere them. And I think that that's the fear that Jefferson has, and it's a very legit one, that the people are kind of putting him up on a little bit of a godlike pedestal. That's never safe, because he is a man. He is a man at the end of it. He's a man who can do things other people can't, but he's not a god. He can't fix everything. And typically when people start putting people way up on those pedestals, then it's a higher place to fall from, even if he doesn't necessarily make a big mistake. So it was very interesting to see how the show kind of talked about both sides of that issue. Is it a bad thing that he's going outside the law to get these things done, versus is it a good thing that the people have someone to look up to inspire hope? But is that hope always placed in the right way? Because LaWanda's, her sacrifice was her choice, but it isn't necessarily a smart choice to inspire a bunch of people to kill themselves. I get it though, like, on the, you know, there's just, I don't want to get into it because, like, it could really be a debate that could go on for days, but it's very interesting that the show's bringing it up, and I love that the show keeps bringing these things up and into the foreground. It just kind of keeps this show very grounded compared to a lot of other superhero shows. And I'm glad that Lynn is finally on board. It seems like she's finally done trying to fight and manipulate Jefferson as far as the Black Lightning stuff. You know, at the beginning of the episode, I got very annoyed when she tried to pull the Jennifer custody card. That's a very low blow as far as manipulation goes. She kind of played that card in the past. That's kind of how she got him to quit being Black Lightning, by, you know, using the marriage and the children as kind of a bargaining chip. And while I'm not saying she was wrong in the sense of course, it was not good for her to have to see him dragging his bloody body in every week, and the fact that, yes, if anyone ever discovered who he was, it could, you know, inadvertently endanger the kids as well and her. But really in the end, and I think that's what Gambi was kind of alluding to last week, was that she manipulated Jefferson. She did use the fact that he loved her and that he loved his girls to manipulate him into doing what she wanted. And it wasn't really fair because, of course, Jefferson had to sacrifice a massive part of himself in order to try to accommodate that. That was upsetting, but I'm glad that Lynn, towards the end, recognized that after, you know, what happened at the rally or at the march, that it's not all Jefferson. It's not always his fault that violence and bad things can happen, whether or not Black Lightning is part of the picture. You know, the things that the 100 are doing are pushing people to do things like march and other things. And, you know, while this whole thing goes on, like, one way or another, Friedland is a war zone at the moment. So for her thinking that somehow Jefferson donning the suit or not donning the suit is going to stop that was very, you know, it was short-sighted of her. And so I'm glad that it sounds like now, we don't know for sure, but it seems like for now she's ready to let that case rest and just accept the fact that he's going to be Black Lightning and that the girls are old enough now to start to potentially learn about what's going on. Which leads me kind of that little conversation she had with Anissa. I do hope Anissa comes clean sooner than later to her parents about it, but I think it's kind of hard for her because clearly she doesn't know that there's already superheroism going on in her family. But I like the fact that she's doing the research, you know, at the library and via comic books. See, kids, comic books are educational, huh? But hopefully she will figure out from all this research that it's most likely a genetic thing, and she might start asking some more questions or maybe putting some things together between Black Lightning and her dad. Time will tell, but I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that we don't have this veil of secrecy between the kids and the parents for too much longer, at least where Anissa's concerned. And then I guess for the funnier parts of the episode, I just loved the honest communication talk between Jen and her parents about her losing her virginity. I mean, it was funny. I love that they made it a very funny and awkward situation, as it would be with any teenager having that discussion with their parents. But you know, the hilarity aside, and of course Jefferson, you know, sizing up the boy that wants to dare touch his daughter. I do like that the show is encouraging. There's two things the show has definitely already encouraged. One is, you know, that is really just the acceptance of their children no matter what, but also the fact that there's that open communication, and that's very, very important. I mean, as cringy as that scene was at some moments, and as funny as it was, the reality is, you know, an ideal situation is your kids should feel open enough to talk to you about things as serious as sex and be able to communicate with you about it. It's not to say it's going to be easy or not completely weird, but I really like that example was shown, because I think too many shows that involve teens, we've seen so many of them where the teens hide this stuff, or they go off and do it and they're not safe, or they go to their friends who know nothing and get misinformation about these types of things. It was just nice to see a very positive example of honest communication between parents and children, and also the fact that the parents were flustered. I love that they were like, we totally dropped the ball on that. We both went blank. We didn't know what to do, but you know, at least she was honest with us, and they you know, they collected themselves afterwards, and Mom was like, okay, yeah, let's get her birth control. Let's make sure that if she's gonna do this, she does it right. You know, not everybody may agree with teenagers having sex, but if you are a parent that does that, it is more responsible to help your children out and, you know, make sure that they are prepared to be as safe and responsible about it as they can be. All in all, guys, great episode. I enjoyed this one. Again, I think it was really good. It had a nice combination of emotion. We had highs, we had lows. We have, you know, some character, we have some progression in the storyline. You know, now Tobias knows that Black Lightning's still alive. We have a question mark as to why is Gambi hiding this from Black Lightning. Apparently, I had an idea early on that both Tobias and Black Lightning seemed to believe that they killed each other, but I wasn't sure if Jefferson didn't realize Tobias was still alive, but I guess clearly he doesn't. He must think that Tobias is dead the same way that Tobias thought he was dead, and now I'm starting to wonder if Gambi is very instrumental in both of them having that belief system going. But if that's the case, then Gambi may be screwing Jefferson over by not letting him know that Tobias is still alive, because Tobias is obviously going to be gunning for Black Lightning going forward. But I'm hoping we'll get some more answers to that soon, or maybe if you guys know why this would be something Gambi would hide from him, I would love to hear about it. Please put it below in them comments. You know I'm gonna read that and comment on that stuff, okay? What did you guys think of this episode? Did you find it as amazing as I did? Was there anything you felt didn't quite ring true? And please, let me know below. And if you like this video, guys, I'd appreciate it if you click that like button. If you wanna see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time, see ya!